This episode is brought to you by Dynamics 365 User Group. D365 UG is the world's most influential user group community of Microsoft Dynamics 365 and CRM users and partners. Across the globe, members share a common goal of maximizing and advancing the performance of Microsoft Dynamics 365 and CRM so that individuals and companies can improve operations, overcome obstacles, and exceed goals. Check out their website at crmug.com. We thank D365UG for sponsoring the CRM Audio Podcast Network. You're listening to ProdCast, the personal productivity podcast from CRM Audio, with your hosts Matthew C. Anderson and Joel Lindstrom. This is a podcast all about how to be more effective in your work and personal life. Got any productivity tips? Send them to voice@crm.audio. So you were telling me about some browser tricks you do when you do demos. What do you do as a super former pre-sales person when you do your demos in your browser?
Yeah, so happy to weigh in on that. And this one goes beyond just purely doing the demo, but even doing like core configuration of an application and then testing it out as different users. And that's specifically around the Chrome browser. Has a capability in it called profiles. Have you tried setting up the management of people inside of Chrome, Joel?
No, but I have used the equivalent that Firefox has. Firefox has like an add-on you can download that basically does the same thing. The idea of a sandbox browser session. So like if you got different Office 365 accounts you want to use, you can do that. Yep. I conveniently forget about these features and just open up like incognito browser sessions and then get a million different browser sessions going. It's really inefficient. So, tell me more about this profile stuff you speak of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where do I go to do that?
So inside of Chrome, when you're logged in, the upper right-hand corner, you have your profile picture if you're associated with a Google account that's there. Uh-huh. Otherwise, it's just a little generic person icon. If you click on that, you can manage people or you can open a guest window. So the guest window is a good example of kind of like the incognito browser, except you do actually get some of the advantages of having like cookies tracked and that sort of thing as you progress through using the browser there. But what I like to do is I like to use the manage people capability, and I set up, I have a lot of user profiles set up because I happen to have a lot of different Office 365 tenants that I go between for different Dynamics environments, Power Apps environments, Power BI environments, and so forth. But what I'll do is for each of the core users and core personas that I have, I will set up a separate profile for each one of those people inside of Chrome. And what it does is, as you mentioned with that extension in Firefox, this is a way to be able to keep the browsing session completely separate for each of those users. So if I'm, for instance, going in as an admin user and configuring an environment, then I want to go in as a user with a more limited security role that's not going to see as many things. That's often my primary demo persona that I'll use there. I can see and make sure that have I included all of the resources or assets that I need to be able to see it. So if I'm pulling up a dashboard, did I share all of the appropriate components, or did I include them in the app, or is the functionality working quite the right way? And I don't have to. What I have is in my taskbar, it has the icon of each of those different profiles on a separate little Chrome picture. So I know that like the one that has my primary demo persona has a little ninja, whereas my primary admin persona has an M, appropriately labeling it for Matt.
Okay, so what will be the deciding factor of when you would bring another persona? Is it simply when you need to log into the same service you're logged into in one browser session, but log into somebody different?
Well, so there are a few different cases that it goes for. I'll try to describe each of them here. One of them is if I have a particularly crucial demo that I'm going to be kind of logging into, one of the beauties of these of doing this is, you ever know how, like, when you log into Office 365, if you're in a browser where you've logged in with like 5 other user profiles, you can see like 5 different user credentials there at the front end, and then you kind of pick one, and from there you can type in your password. So this will allow me for that demo in a very crisp way. I can just have the username for that single user there, and I don't have all of those other kind of credentials that might show up in my configuration profile of the browser. A couple other things that I get along with this is it's not just like the browsing session, but it's the bookmarks. It is the so it's the bookmarks. It is the browsing history that's there, and it's the extensions that I'm using inside of that profile or that person. So whereas if I'm doing configuration under one profile, I might have some special extensions or a bunch of things that kind of help me along the way. I might have Grammarly, showing up there, and there will end up being a bunch of extensions running in that browser session. But for my kind of final show that I'm going to do when I do that key demo, my demo persona browser session, for that person doesn't have any of that extra stuff. It helps me from both a performance standpoint, and it keeps the screen just looking a little bit tidier. And then additionally, if I have, say, 4, 5, 6, 7, however many browser tabs that are going to be open that I progress through in the demo, I can do a bookmark for all of the tabs that I have open. And that way, when I'm getting ready to go in and do my actual presentation, instead of navigating to each of those starting points individually, I can open up the browser session, log in to Office 365, and then open all bookmarks inside of that folder. And then I have the 5, 6, 7, however many different pages that I might be going to, and I don't have to do that prep each time. It makes it very repeatable.
You have each of your personas associated with a different Google account? Because I see when you go and manage users and set up a user, you can choose to associate it with a Chrome account, basically. Yeah,
for most of my demo users, I do not have a Google account associated with them. I do for the ones where I'm doing administration, because there are some extensions that I'll use that are helpful within those. But otherwise, I kind of want it to be completely clean if I'm going to be going into a new demo profile, if you will.
Sure. And I believe you saw one of my recent webinars, and you were pointing out how I had a lot of extensions showing.
You do have a lot of extensions showing there. That was
just shows I'm a busy man.
It took up maybe 50% of the address bar with how many you had there. I mean, there is an easy little way to deal with those individual extensions. So, little tip that is definitely productive. If you right click on one of those extensions up there, you can say hide in Chrome menu. And it will free up some of the address bar space. And if you want to be able to see that, you can hit the vertical ellipses to the right of your profile picture and find all of those extensions there. So
I think I had that turned on for a while, but then I couldn't remember if a certain extension was running. So I think I turned that off. But you're right. So it's like I canceled my Grammarly subscription. I'm using the free version again. And got several other useful extensions, like the very handy Level Up for Dynamics 365.
Yep.
And several other things. But you're right. I don't need to show off my extensions to everybody who sees my screen share.
Yeah, there are definitely some fun ones to have there, but I try to keep that stuff very tidy. One of the ones that I like as an end user, but really dislike as a demoer, is the Windows 10 accounts item. I don't know if you have it where if you're Azure joined for your account, it makes logging into things really easy. But if you try logging into a different Office 365 tenant and you have that browser extension installed, it gets very, very protective of your, like it will inject your Windows credentials and your core Active Directory credentials there. So that one's less exciting as a demoer.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think those are good tips. I'm going to definitely check that out, and I'm now going and hiding my extensions.
Attaboy.
So you're a user of Microsoft Teams, are you not? Working for Microsoft, right?
Yeah, I am both a user of Teams and an evangelist of Teams, Joel. I opted into our earlier on in our transition into Teams. I opted in as a Teams only user before folks were forced into doing that. So yes, I'm a Teams fan.
Yes, and I've become increasingly more. I was a little frustrated with it when I first used it, but I am liking it a lot more.
So what was causing you the pain early on?
Well, it's kind of, if you're the only person, or if it feels like you're the only person who's using it, there's not a lot of conversation going on in it. But especially if you work at a company and the majority of people, if not all the people, are on Teams, it becomes extremely useful. Because early on, I would send people messages and nobody would respond to it. But then it's gotten more, as they've added more connectors for it and other things like that. It's just gotten a lot more useful to me. And I've also found ways to work in it to make myself more efficient. There's a few things that I stumble over still, or that I'm a little frustrated about. But I think on the whole, it's come a long way, and it seems to be dependable as well. But so let's talk about, first of all, maybe some tips for Teams, or some things that are good about it, then maybe our wish list of what could be better. I guess to start off with, and we talked about this a little bit in the past, but I've kind of adopted this of creating the Joel team, which only I am a member of the Joel team. And in this way, Teams becomes kind of like the new Trapper Keeper, where basically everything I work with, within reason, I can put in this team. So I've got there's the SharePoint contract template library that I can never remember the URL to. It's not easy to find. There's certain Power BI dashboards. There's certain Canvas apps I've built that I have embedded in there. There are just websites. I even put a website there for my Outlook web access in it. So I can basically have one thing, and the miscellaneous things that are just separate stuff I've got to remember how to get to, and I got to open up the Power BI app for this, or I got to open up OneNote and go to this OneNote for a podcast of something. I put it all in the Joel team, and then have that organized. And it's not unlimited tabs, but you can get a good 10 plus tabs there.
Yeah, no. So similarly, on the Matthew C. Anderson team, I've got a few different things. These are
very exclusive teams.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just prompted not that long ago to confirm that I did want to have it kind of continue moving forward. Make sure it doesn't get automatically deprovisioned from lack of use. Because there's not a lot of active chat in the team. I mean, I'm not using it that way, but similarly, I've got tabs in there for. I've got the OneNote environment for my one-on-ones and my twice a year kind of performance reviews. I use Planner in there around things that I'm doing inside of my demo environment, as well as a number of Power Apps that I call directly from there. Whereas you have the Trapper Keeper, which I find very, very trendy around a certain year. I'm the guy who has the flapper binder version of that, but I like mine as well.
Okay. So, and mine is nice, shiny, and colorful like a Trapper Keeper.
Yeah.
So the things that I've found help this a lot is, I mentioned people using it. Organizing your contacts is the big thing I've been working on lately, because when you have, especially you work at a company that has a bunch of people in it, I can only imagine what Microsoft is like with all the people who work for Microsoft. It's unwieldy sometimes to find people if you want to start a chat with them. And so if you organize the contacts into groups, so I've got a group for my team, I've got one for management, when unfortunately you have to talk to management, or
or
people
fortunately,
in different groups.
or fortunately.
Yeah. So it makes it a lot easier to quickly find the people I most frequently talk to. Then if I do need to talk to somebody that I don't have there, it's a little bit of work. It's put it this way, it's harder, I think, compared to Skype, to quickly grab somebody and start an IM session with them. But once you find them and you organize them, for the most part, I find I'm mainly working with the people that I have in my categories.
Yeah, so I have my contacts broken out into different categories like that. So I have my immediate team. I actually have a Hitachi Solutions team that you're sitting in. Your Skittle is red, appropriately so. But I as well thought that the interface for kind of getting into a chat or a new chat, if it wasn't somebody that was in the recent chat, was a little bit archaic or frustrating, like at least for the way I was working, until I started more consistently using the little new chat pencil icon to the left of the search bar at the top of Teams. That's now, even for people I go to and chat with all the time, it's my quick way to be able to pull up the chat window with them. So, even if I'm in another team and not looking at chat, I can hit the little pencil icon up there. I can just start typing in the first couple letters of somebody's name, tab to autocomplete, and if it's bringing up one person, then I'm done, and I can just go to the message and start chatting. Otherwise, I can add others or let it resolve and kind of get the chat history with that person, that persistent chat history, which I've really come to appreciate in a way that the Skype chat logs just never really helped with.
Yeah, and I think it's come in helpful. So, like, if somebody shares a file with me, and it's not a vitally important file, but it's something I might want to go back and find again, sometimes I'm just leaving them there, and then I can go find them in that conversation.
Sure. Now, are you, when you're doing chat, have you done much group chat through Teams?
Yeah, I have, and I like how you can name the group.
Yes.
So, like, if I'm chatting with Sean Tabor and Scott LaFonte, I have that group called My Minions. So,
so you're showing your control over them. I like it.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, I mean, to me, like that group naming thing is very helpful because it gives some context to a chat when I go to it later on, and if I want to find and kind of pick up that thread, it's something a little bit less formal than an individual, like team would be for creating a team specifically for that group. That's also one where early on, I'd run into a limitation around it. There was a max of 20, I think it was 20 users, might have been 25 users that you could have in a chat. And I went to the ideas portal and upvoted a request to increase that. And I got the notification a couple months back that they had upped that to something quite a bit higher. I don't remember if it was 50 or 75 or 100 or whatever, but it was very helpful for me that I could do that with just a slightly bigger team in that group chat.
Do you regularly chat with 100 people?
I don't regularly chat with 100 people, but so the use case was there was a subset of people who were going to be going to a conference, and we all wanted to be able to kind of coordinate and have the chat, unlike normal like conversation view inside of a team channel, like a general channel of a team. The chat will notify you on your phone that somebody has sent out a message or put a message into that team chat. Whereas if you're inside of a team, you have to @reply the entire team to get that. And my entire health, life science, business applications team wasn't going to be there, so I didn't want to spam everybody. But the chat function could only group chat a limited portion. Who do you include? Who do you not include? I've got my flapper binder, and I'm back in junior high school. So, for that, my workaround at the time was to create a channel underneath our team that everyone technically had access to, but I just had the folks who are going to be at the event favorite that channel. And that way, if you have a favorited channel, it will alert you when there's new conversation. Not quite the same as having the conversation surface up more organically, like it would in the group chat. So, moving forward, that'll be nice to have the slightly higher user count available there.
I like how the group chat you can just go to the group chat and hit the call button, and it calls the entire group as well. It
can be good and bad, right?
Well, I mean, I have a group for my team, and if I want to, have an impromptu team meeting or something, I can just dial them all up.
Yeah, one of the early mistakes I made was when you're in a Teams meeting and you've got the list of attendees on the right-hand side, you can see the people who were invited, and if you click on one of the invitees, it dials out to them. There's no way to stop that.
So it still does that?
Yeah.
You click on the invitee? Wow.
Yeah.
So like one of the people has been invited but didn't come to the meeting, you're saying?
Exactly.
And it will just so you can go track them down and drag them into the meeting.
Exactly, and sometimes like I will use it as a true feature to drag them into the meeting, but early on I didn't realize that it was going to automatically try to like dial out to them and bring them in.
Right. At least it doesn't do what Skype did. I don't know if it's considered dead yet, but so with Skype, is tying this into our previous topic of my poor browser organization. Sometimes when I would join a Skype meeting, it would open up this website and then open up the Skype app, and then it would, and then if I didn't close that browser, if I opened up the browser again and that tab was active, it would redial me into that session.
Oh yeah, no.
And sometimes I've joined meetings with executives unexpectedly because I was on one of their Skype meetings and then I clicked on it another time.
It goes back to one of the old tips that I had in my top tips for Skype for Business a couple years back around using unique meeting codes for each of your meetings. That way you don't have those unintended visitors.
Yeah. Another thing that I just discovered this, so I don't know if this is new or if this has always been there, but the integration between Teams and OneDrive for Business is really nice. So if you log into OneDrive for Business, you will see in the side panel all your teams. Mm-hmm. And if you have a file that you want to move to a team or vice versa, you can right-click on it and either choose Copy to or Move to, and can pick, if you're in Teams, you can pick a OneDrive. So if I've got a personal copy of a document and I'm also storing it in Teams, I made the update to one place, but I want it to be someplace else as well. I can easily copy it or move it between those locations. Very useful if you want to as well. I've got this team created, but then this other team has been created and want to combine them together. I can just select all the documents and very easily right-click and move, which to me is great they're working together, because that was always the criticism of SharePoint versus OneDrive for Business is they were kind of related but not. It was like you either got it there, but there was no easy way to port it between them. So that's been useful in helping keep it arranged.
Yeah, and for me, another one of the nice things about the Skype, the Teams and OneDrive for Business integration is when I'm when I'm in a like the general tab of a team, and I want to share a document that maybe I worked on something that was customer specific, but it's just an example I wanted to share out with other folks. Almost anything that I'm creating there, I have in OneDrive for Business. And if I choose OneDrive for Business as my file attachment location, it's using like Office Graph to look at what my recent documents were. So, that PowerPoint or that Word doc or whatever it is right there and ready for me to pick from, and I don't have to go search for it or remember which folder it had been in. It's just the sheer virtue of having just worked on it. I can quickly share it out with the greater team.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other kind of thing I'm trying to get a handle on is organizing the teams, because if I go to my Teams tab, you probably can sense a trend here. Mm-hmm. I've got a mile long of teams, and one thing that I didn't realize, and a lot of people don't realize, is that list is actually your favorite teams. Mm-hmm. So by default, I don't know if there's is there a way to join a team and say, don't make this one of my favorites?
I have not attempted that. I don't know.
So you can basically, when you join a team, it'll be in your favorite list and it'll be in this big long list. But you can right click or click the three dots next to the team if it's one that you want to stay in the team, but you don't want it to clutter up your list. You want your most important teams to be in your favorites. Yep. If you remove from favorites, it puts it in a category called More, which is underneath that. I wish I could make more categories. I don't think I can. It gives you the ability right now to make additional categories, but at a minimum, you can create favorites, or you can organize it so the ones that you don't check as often or don't need to check that often are not in the favorite list. Yeah.
So I've definitely taken to using that. A little thing that I stumbled over, and even like if I walk away and don't think about it when I try to move a team out of my favorites, you can't drag and drop down into the More category. You have to hit the ellipses and choose remove favorite from there. But to that same point, you can, for anything that is in your favorites, reorder the teams that are there and put kind of your true tippity top favorites up top. Or if there's something that's going to get a lot more of your mind share, you can move it up top there to find it. Additionally, if you hit the little cog at the bottom of the list of teams next to create or join a team, there's you can bring up the manage teams section. And what I like about that is it is without getting into all of the detail of the channels, you can see all of the active teams that you're part of and search the names of like just the team names. So, if I'm having a hard time remembering exactly which one it is, it's a great way to quickly kind of search through every team I'm a member or owner of to be able to find that. You can also pretty easily like star and unstar different teams, do some of that team management.
Yeah, I like that. So that's kind of the bulk option if you want to see the list and easily set the favorites or the ones that are not favorite.
Yeah, and you can even sort that by how many people are in the team. So look at the teams that have the most people, and then look at the team of Joel, which only has one person in it.
Right. So one of the things that I think I'm just scratching the surface on, but I'm pretty excited about the potential for is the ability to use Flow with Teams as well. And so Flow, for people who don't know, apparently you haven't been listening to the CRM audio podcast, but Flow is the Microsoft's cross-platform workflow and automation tool that has about 230, 250 connectors. But you can, right now it's kind of limited because you can basically add a Flow app to the team, so you can create and manage flows from there. You can use the bot to launch a flow. So I haven't done that much with the team bot, but you can have it where if you have certain actions where you want it in your team, tell team bot to do things, you can do that. But what's coming in the next couple months, it's pretty exciting, is there's more flow capabilities to manage your teams. So setting up team automation is coming in a big way. So like notifications within channels, so having a service that one of the connectors in Flow, have it notify within that, have it automate things like workflows based on events in teams. So somebody does something in a team, do this, or notify you when somebody is mentioned something within a team. So I think that's going to help in a big way to some of the things that are kind of manual right now. I think we'll be able to automate a little bit more and even make it an even more exciting trapper keeper.
Exactly, and who doesn't want that?
So let's talk about the things that we think could be better. What are some things you think would make Teams even better?
Well, I think my number one request around that would be for the chat window to be detachable. And here's the use case that I really struggle with there is I'm in a meeting inside of Teams and I get a chat request from somebody that's not in the chat regarding that meeting that I'm in, but it's somebody else from my team or somebody from out of the organization, and I need to respond to that. My options are pretty limited. I can try to do the one line like reply to the notification that came up, which if it is a one sentence question, a very brief question and a simple answer, that can be a great way to do it. But if I have 3, 4, 5, 7 different things, or I need to look at the kind of progression of the chat for it to make sense, as soon as I click on that chat, it minimizes the share window of the meeting that I'm in, and I'm kind of jolted out of that meeting to then focus on the chat when the chat is really, should be more in the background. And it's kind of this back and forth, the context of what I'm looking at. It is kind of the biggest hindrance to my general kind of workflow or productivity as I'm using Teams.
But wouldn't that be nice to extend to really being able to detach any kind of window? Like when I'm on a screen share or something, sometimes I need to navigate to a folder to find that, and I kind of got to go away from the screencast. So I'd like to be able to not just the chat, but also detach the screen share to my other monitor, maybe while I'm browsing my folders. To maybe I'm finding my PowerPoint that's stored in a team because I need to present it next or something.
Yeah,
and that's just a little bit awkward right now.
Yeah, and I think there are some other other of those components that I do think make sense to be able to break into kind of that separate window. The screen share is a good example there, especially if I'm a real proponent of using the video chat for being able to more engage with an audience. And if you have the full screen of the screen share, the video chat is very minimized, and there's not much that you can see there. I think there's some missed opportunity, but by the other side of the coin there is simplicity of the application. Everything is in one place the way it's set up this way, and from a training learning perspective, it is kind of everything in one place, which I get that need for simplicity. Maybe it's that Microsoft heritage of, yes, but I want this other feature to be able to detach. So it could be a slippery slope, but I definitely have a few of those where I would love to get that detached.
Okay, well, I'll give you one, and that is when you're a member of several different networks. So I'm a member, I have Teams, of course, Hitachi Solutions. There's also Microsoft-owned Teams for MVP and partners and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I will occasionally have to switch over to that. And basically when you do that, you're totally removed from your organization. So you don't see... I guess you can see your meetings and stuff. You see your calendar or whatever. But if you are, as I learned with the Rude Awakening, if you are in a meeting and you switch networks to see what that notification is at the other network, it ends your conversation.
Sayonara.
And so then also, just the notifications in general, I have 5 notifications on another network, but if I was to go over there, I'd lose my connectivity to my network. So that's it's some ways it feels like I'm complaining too much, because this is so much better than Yammer or Skype ever was. So I'm thankful for what I got. But one trick I have to compensate for that is I will actually sometimes open Teams in my browser as well as running the app. Mm-hmm. And I'll do that specifically so I can be in multiple networks at the same time. And I guess if I was in more than 2, that'd be another good use of the personas thing.
Yeah, no, I've taken to a similar approach of having a separate chat window open in a browser window.
The nice thing is, I like your idea about the chats and the group chats and making them kind of, instead of creating a new team, doing like group chats and naming them, because you can actually add tabs to chats as well as to adding them to teams, and so. Mm-hmm. You don't need to create a whole new channel if you just are short-term interacting with somebody. So I think there's a lot of things. There's a lot of good points to be said about that, because I can have files, or I can have specific things just with that conversation. So that, I think, is a great tip to cut down on team sprawl.
Dig it.
And I think I've also found, since I've been trying to anything I contact somebody internally about within reason, I'm trying to send it via Teams now. I've found that at least the last couple of days, it feels to me like my email quantity has decreased. Have you seen that?
I haven't done a review of the email volume comparatively. I still get a lot. How about that?
So next time somebody emails you internally, respond on Teams.
I will accept that challenge.
This has been ProdCast, the personal productivity podcast from CRM Audio with Matthew C. Anderson and Joel Lindstrom. Follow Matthew on Twitter at @MCAnderson or on his blog, connectingthedata.com. Follow Joel Lindstrom on Twitter at Joel Lindstrom. ProdCast and the rest of the CRM Audio Network are available on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and anywhere else fine podcasts are available. This podcast is a production of Dynamic Podcasts, LLC.